Wake up, Detroit. I'm Joanne Watson, and this is your wake-up call.
When a brown girl child is born, the earth shifts. The sun is at half-mast. The moon waits for her first cry. The ancestors set the table. The flowers turn red as blood. This is your land, continent daughter, with tree trunk legs and branches for arms. This is your soil, black and fertile as your eyes facing an apartheid Jim Crow current past memory. Some of us begin the removal of shackles at birth. We grow into the armor of struggle quickly. We brew courage in our tea, blend bravery into our Sunday dinners. Joanne Watson, you understand nation building is not a part-time job. This dedicated life is sometimes lonely, a vulnerable choice, but it is the only way you know how to operate. You are wired for the movement in your black women bones, even when tired, still fighting, still organizing, still singing morning spirituals. You were born to lead, even in your own family, the eldest of 10 children born to Jefferson and Lestine. You made Damon, Nefertari, Stephen, Maya. Her children always knew she was larger than life. When you are a woman in the movement, you take the children with you on the journey. You bring the babies with you to your college classes. When you travel to Ghana for the first time, it will be with your daughters in tow. When you are a fearless, nationalist thinking mama, mothering never stops with your own babies. 30 godchildren and mentees across the globe. The daughter of a ministering mother is already ordained for good trouble. A seer, a prophetic young student preparing for her lifelong role as servant to her own community. When your purse was snatched in a Farmer Jack parking lot many years ago with your kids' tickets to Run DMC in the purse, you made sure they still got to that concert and even hosted Melly Mel and the Furious Five in your living room, because queens make it look easy. When you're a single mom, people will tell you what you can't do. Instead, you move to New York City with all 4 of your C's to do your necessary work with the YWCA, because queens make it look easy. Ghana, Togo, South Africa, where is your heart, Mama Watson? Nurturing spirit, baking melt in your mouth, homemade biscuits. How many hours do you sleep, Warrior Watson, with endless work ethic and blue-collar blood racing through your veins? How do we say thank you for your work, your time, your heart? We know you will never really retire. There is a fire on the path to freedom. There is smoke, there is sacrifice. There are stories of justice, of women, of Tubman, Sojourner, of Angela, Asada, Coretta, and Merle, and Betty, and Queen Mother Moore. Some of us know we are ancient, that our marrow is laced with legacy, that we are here to bring light to our daughters. Sometimes it just takes one woman, a mother, a grandmother, a Spitfire, griot, a sister, the only woman to lead the NAACP's largest chapter. She, daughter of the movement, of Rosa, of Irma. She was a birth that gave birth to possibility for other young activists like me, a true D woman, frontline Fatima, Nigerian blood, councilwoman, leader, truth teller, Joanne Watson, social worker, president of the Anti-Klan Network, sister, inspiration, dedicated to the protection of girls and the voices of women wrapped in West African beauty, regal and resilient. Wake up, Detroit. Wake up, South Africa. Wake up, Cuba. Wake up, small business owners. Wake up, White House. Wake up, reparations. Wake up, teachers. Wake up, women. Wake up, schools. Sleeping is not an option when the Honorable Joanne Watson is in the room.
Wake up, Detroit. I'm Joanne Watson. This is your wake-up call. And today, our co-host, wonderful co-host and sponsor, Monica Lewis Patrick, CEO, founder, We the People. We the People of Detroit is in the house. Monica Lewis Patrick, president, CEO, co-founder of We the People of Detroit. And we're so happy to welcome her as a sponsor, as a co-host.
Yes, ma'am.
Welcome, Monica Lewis Patrick.
Yes, ma'am. It is always an honor and a privilege to be with you, Mother Watson. I'm having a pinch me moment.
We just love you, and we're so proud of you. Now, there are a few people out there who may not know the Monica Lewis Patrick story, so I'd be honored if you would share with them all the roots and the roads that led you to this point.
Yes, ma'am. Well, for me, my roots are connected by way of Northeast Tennessee.
Come on now.
My sweet mama is from West Virginia. I am part of that long lineage of Hortons,
Well,
by way of my grandfather being the seventh oldest brother of Willie Horton, the baseball player.
my.
And so we have deep roots in Tennessee and Kentucky and North Carolina and Virginia and Alabama and Mississippi.
Go ahead.
But during the Great Migration in 1952, my great-grandparents moved to Detroit in
All right.
1952.
Come on now.
And so my grandfather would bring 13 grandchildren up to Detroit, and he would tell us, "Wake up, Hortons,"
That's it.
because the
That's
Horton
it.
name means something in Detroit.
You better say it.
And so when I moved to Detroit with my two youngest children in 2008, I saw it as a new beginning. I had
Yes.
gone through a divorce. My youngest child had been dropped off on my doorstep at 8 weeks old. I had finished my master's degree. I had been managing 8 counties of Northeast Tennessee's
Wow.
mobilized crisis services. And just all of those critical, life-changing
Yes.
moments. I had always wanted to live in Detroit.
Wow.
Even as a child, when we would come to Detroit in the summer,
Look at
it was
God.
the highlight of our summer to get
Look
to
at
Detroit
God.
with our Detroit cousins. And so I said, God, I really want to live in Detroit.
Yeah.
My mother thought I'd lost my mind. You gonna take my children to Detroit? I said, yes, ma'am.
I love
And
it.
so I moved to Detroit in 2008 with my 2 youngest children. Within 3 weeks, I found myself deep in the struggle around public education.
Come on now.
Had been friends for years with Deborah Taylor, who's just an amazing co-founder of We
Yes.
the People of Detroit. She serves as our CFO, has an extensive background in nonprofit development.
Yes.
From that work around public education, I met the other co-founders, Cecily McClellan, just a legend in the city in terms
Absolutely.
of social justice work,
Yes.
black education, black African-centered education, a long history of leadership and organized labor, had worked extensively for the health department in the city of Detroit.
That's right.
And even till this day is fighting for pensions to be restored.
Come on now.
Mama Chris Griffin, who is 93 years young.
93.
Still showing up. She was at work yesterday. But she was part of establishing the first methadone clinic in the city.
My.
Under the leadership of the great Coleman
Coleman
Alexander
Alexander
Young.
Young.
And we like to say the name. And then, of course, we have Professor Aurora Harris, who is
Yes.
a professor at University of Michigan at Dearborn, has a lot of expertise. She's a poet. She's an author.
Yes.
And so we have all of this genius that came together really fighting for our children to have quality education
Yes.
in the city, for parents to have a say-so
That's right.
in the development of that education. And out of that fight over the course of 5 weeks where you were sitting at that table, we were successful in beating back mayoral oil control.
Absolutely.
And so it was
And
through
people
that.
don't know that story.
Yes, ma'am.
They don't know that there's a reason why Detroiters currently have the right to vote for the Detroit Board of Education, which they did this past Tuesday.
That's right. That's right.
The magnificent Mother Rosa Parks was an amicus. She signed on to a lawsuit that we filed to get our vote back.
That's
for
right.
the Detroit Board of Education. She was always an activist, a revolutionary,
Yes, ma'am.
like so
Yes,
many
ma'am.
other women.
Yes, ma'am. We love just the stories of Mother Parks. And we know that you're deeply connected to keeping that legacy alive.
I was blessed. There was a movie filmed, produced by Peacock this season. And last month they released it. And they had interviewed me and a whole lot of other folks from Detroit. But I was very blessed to be included in this feature. And I didn't know, you get interviewed, you don't know if it's going to show up or not.
That's right.
But it was, they had me in there one time. I said, okay, that was it. No, then another time. Then from her movement days with Dr. King all the way to the point where they had me acknowledging that when she joined the Ancestors, she had the Bible on her chest, turned to the 23rd Psalm. I was blessed to have been in the rebellious life of Mrs. Rosa Parks. The rebellious life of Mrs. Rosa Parks. That film just released a few weeks ago.
Yes, those stories of her. And then we had the honor at that table to interface with you, and it just was life-changing. I remember coming to your office, sharing stories of my concern with how we were going to create jobs and training
Yes.
for Detroiters And one of the things you did is you turned around and handed me a 9-inch thick notebook and said, baby, take this and then come back. And so I had the weekend
Yes.
to digest and go through that book. And what it was laying out was the federal funds that would be available for creating contracts, jobs, and
That's right.
opportunities for communities like Detroit.
That's right.
And it was through your leadership and your tutelage that myself and Deborah Taylor were added to your staff. Oh my God, I learned so much.
Your advocacy brought you to my staff.
Yes, ma'am.
I was sitting at the New Bethel Baptist Church, Aretha's father's church. Reverend Robert Smith is a wonderful pastor now. New Bethel Baptist on C.L. Franklin Boulevard
Yes.
in Detroit. And we were talking about having a community rally about our right to control our own schools and our own children. And you got to the stage and started speaking. I said, oh, who is that baby? Oh, I started hollering from the audience. Who is that? Oh, she's outstanding. We started hooping and hollering. And before you left the church, I said, you got to be on my staff. You got to be on my staff. I need you. That's the fire I need in the city council office.
Right.
And it was a blessing. Now, Lord, nothing happens by coincidence.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
that
ma'am.
was on purpose.
Yes, ma'am.
And it was absolutely spectacular when we got together, because you were an activist, a leader. You could speak it, you could preach it, you could sing it. Just what I needed. And even though you all accused me of writing scripts on the back of a program, you helped develop legislation that has continued to support this city in a special way. So I thank you for that. Thank you for your activism. Some people take positions in public service, and it's just a job. It was never just a job for you. And I thank you on behalf of the people of Detroit.
Well, that means more than you will ever know, especially coming from you. You have been such a bright light, not only for me personally, but professionally. I know that the women of We the People of Detroit, our legacy, our work, we stand on your shoulders. We unapologetically sing your praises. We say your name. We tell your story. The only reason that you see throughout the nation a real commitment to the human right to water, the advancement of water affordability, a clear path to sustaining families, is because of the work that you and the late, great Marian Mahaffey did, along with the legendary work of the leadership of People's Water Board and Michigan Welfare Rights.
Yes.
All of you, as women of great consciousness, were so deliberate in creating something not only that would just barely meet the bare minimum, you did what was universally required, that every person should have a pathway to clean, safe, and affordable water.
Everybody has a right to water.
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody. And when you go back to the beginning, in the beginning,
Yes.
the Spirit of the Lord hovered over the face of the waters.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
And
ma'am.
then there was light. Before there was anything, there was water.
Yes.
So how dare anybody make water unaffordable and inaccessible to the people?
Yes, ma'am.
So we, the people, have picked up this mantle and helped our people gain access. I thank you for your compliments. I must acknowledge the Honorable John Conyers. I was on his staff when he sent me to the first meeting that the Honorable Marian Mahaffey, former president of the City Council, convened on the water issue, on the right to have affordable water access to Detroiters who own the water system.
That's right.
And it's insane that Detroiters are paying retail prices for water while suburban customers are paying wholesale rates. It's not fair, it's not ethical, it's not right.
That's right. That's right.
And she brought in Roger Colton, who helped create a landmark philosophy that it ought to be affordable. And this is how to also make it be good for the water department. More people will pay if it's affordable.
That's right.
Then it's a win-win situation. And we were blessed to use that backdrop to pass the first legislation, which was a resolution, not an ordinance, but a resolution calling for affordable water and no water shutoffs in the city of Detroit. And we're grateful for all that was done, all that continues to be done.
Yes, ma'am.
It's important that people recognize water is a human right.
That's right.
It's a human
That's
right.
Say it. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But it was that forethought. It was the ability for you as a collective, not only legislative champions, but deeply steeped in community. The way you shaped that policy was so intentional and so thoughtful that it is many of the policies that we see rolling out in Philadelphia, in Baltimore, just a couple of weeks ago, Chicago used it.
Come on, somebody.
So even though we have not been able to fully actualize it in our own city, we take great pride that in Detroit, we set the template, we set the bar for what water affordability should be.
And we still fighting.
Yes, ma'am.
We're not giving up.
Every day.
We're
Every
not
day.
giving up.
And we're closer than we've ever been. We're closer than we've ever been.
Talk to us about that.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, we're at a critical moment. We've spent at We the People of Detroit the last couple of years sitting at national tables, really bringing the voice of our community, bringing the expertise of our community
Yes.
to those tables to, one, make sure that we're telling the truth. We've spent so many years really putting forth public health data and research and information just to demonstrate that there was a problem with shutting off water and not giving families any pathway to restoration.
Right.
And Detroit had been the canary in the mine of what not to do
My.
in terms of families and creating water security. It was out of those stories that begin to shape the dialogue across the nation that we've got to go in a different direction. So not only in Michigan, but we were seeing in places like New Jersey, Ohio, all up and down the Rust Belt. But then in the southern parts near the Gulf Coast, you were also seeing out on the West Coast, families were struggling all across the nation. About 15 million American families are struggling every year just to afford their water. And that's including drinking water and sanitation.
Wow. Now that is startling
Yes.
and heartbreaking. We're going to take a break so that we can acknowledge our sponsor. And we must acknowledge our sponsor. Our sponsor for Wake Up Detroit is none other than We the People of Detroit. Monica Lewis Patrick is the president, CEO, co-founder, and we're so grateful for We the People of Detroit. We the People of Detroit, water warriors, and they're working on issues that impact constitutional protections, human rights, civil rights, education rights, all that is necessary for our people to be whole and well. That is what enables We the People of Detroit, and we're so happy to welcome them aboard as a sponsor of WHPR and Wake Up Detroit.
Have you ever wanted your own TV show? Have you dreamed of showcasing your talent for the world to see? Well, now you can. Have your own TV show. You can have your own 30-minute show. Not only will you be seen in the Detroit area, but you can be viewed worldwide. Be seen on WHPR Detroit Live, Comcast Cable Channel 91, on the web at TV33WHPR.com, with the TV33 app, on Roku, Google TV, Apple TV, and on Amazon Fire TV. Act now. Time slots are limited. Sign up today and get a free replay with the purchase of your time slot. For more information, call 313-868-6612. Visit our studios and receive a free TV interview to promote your business, church, or organization by appointment only.
Justice for Mario Willis. Truth. Facts. Evidence. Mattered. Log into justiceformariowillis.com. Read for yourself.
Muscles, joints, or feet tired, achy, or distressed? Tried everything? Ringmaster Rubbing Oil is a vintage topical pain reliever, trusted for over 70 years, with a rich formula for the treatment of stubborn aches and pains. Packaged in a glass bottle for purity, our liquid can also be used in warm water for foot soaks and compresses. A little goes a long way. Try our time-tested formula, available in several sizes.
Make a donation to WHPR TV and receive two 2-ounce bottles of Ringmaster Rubbing Oil for $25. Call 313-868-6612.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. We are living through unprecedented times with a global pandemic now approaching its third year. As a result, the Michigan Homeowner Assistance Fund was created. This fund, administered by the state of Michigan, is designed to help homeowners cope with pandemic-related hardships, such as delinquent property taxes. See if you qualify. Please visit. Call 313-388-9799 or email taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Wake Up Detroit, I'm Joanne Watson. Welcome back to Wake Up Detroit with our co-host, a wonderful leader, president, CEO, co-founder of We the People of Detroit, Monica Lewis Patrick. She was just talking to us before the break about the staggering number of people in this country, yea, around the world, who do not have access to affordable, accessible water.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It is one of the most disturbing things that I've ever heard. As my grandmother would say, it's stuck in my craw. When you begin to educate us in terms of what not only the city was experiencing, but how it was connected to a national issue and then also a global issue.
Yes.
And in 2010, one of the first assignments you gave me was to organize Hands Off Our Water.
My.
And we had the responsibility of getting thousands of Detroiters, and people across the state really showed up in Michigan because they understood the significance of what was happening around the internal privatization
That's right.
of Detroit's water department. And one of the first things they did was privatize the testing, the
Yes.
chemistry department.
Yes.
We could test within hours. We knew within hours what the
Yes.
quality of our water was.
My.
We knew that if there was even a whiff of there being a storm or any kind of concern for what was going to happen within the drainage system,
Right.
those men and women of the Detroit Water and Sewage Department, they were not only experts at managing the water system, they were experts at really monitoring weather.
Yes.
Meteorologists, they were chemists.
Yeah, engineers.
Engineers,
Yes.
some of the best and brightest minds, not only in this country, but in the world.
That's right.
We have to remind people often, up until the late 90s, Detroit had an award-winning water department.
That's right.
We were not only the best at managing water in the U.S., we were the best in the world.
Say it,
And
say
we
it.
say it often. We have to remind ourselves.
That's right.
I tell folks all the time, when the water department of Detroit Water and Sewage Department was under the control of the people of Detroit, we never poisoned anyone.
No.
It was only under the austerity of Governor Snyder
Come
that the
on
people
now.
of Flint got poisoned, and then the people of Detroit were massively shut off.
And see, Governor Snyder, the truth has not fully been told
That's right. That's right.
about what happened to Flint.
That's right.
It was when they illegally, inhumanely disconnected Flint from Detroit's water system
That's right.
that the problems happened in Flint. They connected Flint, the city of Flint, and its residents to the Flint River,
That's right.
which was so corroded, so contaminated, General Motors stopped using the Flint River in building the Oldsmobiles in their cars.
That's right. That's
So
right.
if it's too bad, the water's too bad for the old Oldsmobile, how can it be fit for human beings? It's disgrace. It's a disgrace
Yes, ma'am.
that the people of Flint were used as to help further the cause of Snyder and his cohorts, to make Detroit's water system look like it was not profitable, to help them move toward bankruptcy, which was also illegal,
That's right.
and to make it look like it was not making a profit. That it was all about the money.
That's right. That's
It
right.
was all about the money, taking away the profit that Flint was bringing to Detroit's water department and putting all those people at risk really forever. Because the babies whose brains have been tampered with as a result of this Flint River corrosion, who knows what that end will be.
That's right. Well, according to research that was recently done about a year and a half ago at Wayne State University, they are saying that the lead and the toxicity will rest in the bones of those children for at least 4 generations.
My Lord.
So their children's children
My Lord.
will experience the impacts of lead toxicity. But the other thing that people need to understand too is that a lot of the work that you and others did around raising the knowledge that there is a pathway to clean, safe, and affordable water
Yes.
through a water affordability policy. It has been in the last 3 to 5 years that you have seen not only a shift in terms of the conversation at the state level, but you've seen a dramatic shift at the national level. And just in the last couple of months, with the historic releasing of dollars for water relief because we were in a global pandemic, you've even seen our water department that took a lot of pride over the last few years in shutting off water, actually softening their tone. And so just in the last few weeks, they've offered up something called the Detroit Lifeline. And we've had to be very deliberate in
Yes.
assessing that program, because the water department recently has had such a very negative engagement with its citizens.
Yes.
And so through that analysis, we have been able to say that it is a step in the right direction. It does not go far enough to meet the standards of water affordability
Yes.
that you and others have crafted for us, but it does get us closer in terms of maintaining a lifeline of assistance. And so we've been able to lift that positive piece. It's going to help about 20,000 residents
Excellent.
be able to address their legacy debt,
Excellent.
which is going to be critical. But that's still not enough resources to maintain and sustain the program.
That's right.
For long-term water assistance.
That's right.
I mean, water affordability. And we definitely
Because
want
water assistance is not water affordability.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Water,
ma'am.
it's water affordability that ought to be always the sharpest knife in the drawer.
That's right. And what we've learned from you is that assistance is a temporary fix, and there are families that will need just that small hand up in an emergency or a
Right.
financial crisis. But then we have families that are living so low below the poverty level that they have no other resources
right.
to garner to pay the ever increasing cost of water. We often have to remind folks, Detroiters have experienced an overwhelming historic increase in water costs.
That's right.
We are bearing the burden of water rates increasing to the tune of 478% over the last 2 decades. And we know that wages have not kept pace with that.
No.
So looking at where we are right now, and the water department is projecting that water rates are going to go up about 3% every year for about the next 5 or 6 years.
My.
So even what we're experiencing now, for those that can still pay, some of you that can pay today may not be able to pay over the next couple of years moving forward.
My.
And so our commitment is to make sure that every Detroiter, every resident
That's
has
right.
access to clean, safe, and affordable water.
That's right.
And one of the things you lifted up about Flint is that the residents of Detroit and the city of Detroit had actually put a deal on the table that would have created cost savings for Flint.
Say that.
If Flint had stayed on the Detroit Water and Sewage Department, had stayed with us, they actually would have experienced about $80 million in cost savings.
Wow.
So the fact that they would not or were forced not to renew under emergency management, we have to remind people, all of these things were done under austerity.
That's right.
Not under elected democratic processes.
exactly right.
It was austerity. So what you saw is as they were taking off the largest external customer from Detroit's Water and Sewage Department
That's right.
to weaken it, it was to force us into a contrived bankruptcy.
That's
and you
right.
have research right now that came out last year from Dr. Sarah Hughes at the University of Michigan that actually outlined much of the work that we, the people of Detroit, had done years ago
Yes.
that demonstrated that the attack on Michiganders around emergency management was about seizing access to assets like their water department.
That's exactly right. And it was done unconstitutionally because all the utilities in the city of Detroit were under the charter.
That's right.
And the charter language said that citizens had to vote
That's right.
to change anything as it related to public lighting, the water, any other utility. That vote never happened.
That's right.
What happened was done under an emergency manager of Detroit, also illegal, and the city was never bankrupt.
That's right.
The city was never bankrupt. That was another one of those fraudulent, deceitful, treacherous things that occurred over this last period.
That's right.
City of Detroit, you cannot own a $60 billion asset called the Detroit Water Department and be bankrupt.
Right.
And that figure was set by Judge Fikens, federal Judge Fikens, when he was in charge of the water department for 40 years. So how do you have a $60 billion asset and be bankrupt? Impossible.
That's right. And even now we're being shortchanged in terms of the lease agreement. We have a lease agreement with the Great Lakes Water Authority where, according to the Haas Institute, we should be garnering about $215 million a year in that agreement. We're only getting $33 million. And they say $50 million, but Detroit is paying about $17 million of that 50 back to itself.
Right. Back to itself.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, my.
When we should get 215 annually.
Sounds like three-card Molly to me.
Sounds like robbery. to
That's
me.
it. It's
Extortion.
extortion. And the people of Detroit suffering from gentrification,
That's right.
suffering from complete theft, grand theft, Cecily likes to call
Yes.
it, grand theft
Yes.
of our assets, our resources, have begun to lose trust. Who can they believe?
That's right.
Who can they trust? Who can they look to? to help resolve. One of the resources, thank goodness, people can look to is We the People of Detroit. We the People of Detroit, and we're going to break right now and let everyone know that this program is being sponsored by We the People of Detroit. We the People of Detroit, led by a co-founder, president, CEO, Monica Lewis Patrick. There are other founders whose names she's called in this program. But the leadership, every organization has to have leader. And the leadership of We the People of Detroit is our co-host, Monica Lewis Patrick, who's going to be with us every month, sharing the good news.
Yes.
The good news.
Yes.
About all the issues that are being confronted, addressed, and many of them resolved by We the People of Detroit. Thank you for being a sponsor of Wake Up Detroit and WHPR. We appreciate your sponsorship, Madam President.
It's a pleasure. I know that I spent many years accompanying you to the station. I can't tell you what a joy it is to have this privilege on behalf of our organization, to enjoy the historic legacy of the work that you have done, not only as a journalist, not only as a TV personality, but I just still am in awe of the amazing work and leadership that you've provided to us as residents in the city of Detroit. We've always been able to trust your voice.
You're very kind. I want to let you know that if it were not for WHPR, R.J. Watkins, and people like Maxine Willis, and Tim, who is handling the engineering right now, I would never have been on the Detroit City Council. Of course, I put God first.
Yes, ma'am.
Were it not for the wonderful presence of the Lord,
yes,
there is no way
yes,
a woman who had never run for office before, who the media said had zero chance because I was too black, too activist, too supportive of reparations. How can that woman make it on city council against Gil Hill, who had been president of the city council, who had been a significant force on Beverly Hills Cop with Eddie Murphy, had 100% name recognition and had money. How can she become city council?
But God.
We're going to take a break, and we shall return right after this.
Ready to put your podcast on iHeartRadio? Yes, your podcast on iHeartRadio. What about Alexa, Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, Android, or iPhone? Plus live TV streaming. Get your podcast seen and heard all over the world. Call 313-868-6612. Pre-recorded shows are accepted to be archived. This is a WHPR distribution platform. Download the app from the App Store. Go to WHPRTV.com. Channels available for lease 24/7 on Roku, Fire Stick, or Apple TV. Coming soon, subscription and pay-per-view.
Also,
Block time is available. Get yours. Call 313-868-6612. That's 313-868-6612. Executive producer R.J. Watkins. Program director Henry Tyler. 107.5 FM WGPR HD2. RadioWeCanSee.com.
Wake up, Detroit. Welcome back to the Wake Up Call. We're so blessed to have Monica Lewis Patrick as our co-host, as our co-anchor, and a sponsor of Wake Up Detroit here on WHPR. I'm so happy that people are learning about We the People of Detroit, because there are people who need to know what you do, Monica, who need to know about We the People of Detroit, who need to recognize that this activism, this organizing is right in our city. And you're doing it really around the nation. I got word just yesterday that you're on a panel that's being led by the White House on environmental issues. Talk to us about that.
Yes, ma'am. We've been super blessed because of the work, your work really, that we've been able to build on around water affordability. We are in partnership nationally with PolicyLink. They have actually created a national caucus around water and climate. So we're a part of the leadership of that team. Also in collaboration with our own Detroiter, Dr. Jalon Newsom-White is actually chairing the White House CEQ, the Council for Environmental Quality. And so we've been named at a national level to co-chair the Committee on Water Affordability. Of course, we could not do that without making sure that they had historical context.
Go ahead.
For water affordability. So it was a great honor that you were able to join us a few months ago to give that historical grounding, to make sure they understood that there had been those like yourself and others that had that foresight to create policies that were inclusive of making sure that there was a rate structure that would restore the utility but also keep water on. And so it's been through that lens that we are now going to speak before Congress about what is needed to continue to move forward. They've allocated about $1.7 billion for water, but we believe that there is a greater need, and so we believe that it's a good first step, but there is more that needs to be done.
That's right.
And then because of how you've taught us, we never stop pushing
That's
to
right.
get our communities what they need. The struggle continues.
That's right.
And so we're bringing those voices along with the fact that our video team has put together video footage of Detroiters all throughout the city.
I love it.
Started sharing their stories of how they're struggling with knowing that water is going to start being shut off in
Yes.
January. And many of them are concerned about the debt that is going to be just unbearable for their households. And so we wanted to carry those stories to DC.
Yes.
To make sure that our Congress is hearing from the people of Detroit and throughout the Great Lakes in terms of the concerns we have about maintaining access to clean, safe, affordable water.
And Congress holds the purse strings.
Yes, ma'am.
So Congress, is in the same way that they've been able to loosen resources to help Ukraine and to help other things that they didn't plan for,
That's right.
they need to plan to help citizens all over this country, especially citizens surrounded by the Great Lakes,
That's right. That's right.
with water resources that should be government financed. Governments should be behind what is necessary in order to rebuild the infrastructure,
Yes, ma'am.
in order to make sure that none of our people are without water. Nobody should have to suffer through water shutoffs.
Well, and we've had to sort of bring that understanding to a greater level at the congressional level. We've been in a number of congressional hearings and briefings.
Yes.
Because of the community research that we've been able to do that has validated the voices and the stories of the community.
Your
So-
research has been absolutely phenomenal. You've written a book and writing another book.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We wrote Mapping the Water Crisis, the Disenfranchisement of African American Neighborhoods in Detroit. But it's a 3-part series, and of course that work is being led by Professor Aurora Harris, but also under the senior guidance of Dr. Gloria House. We know her as Mama Annette.
That's right.
And so she, along with Aurora and others at that table, we have about 67 researchers and experts from around the country.
Excellent.
That convene with We the People of Detroit. But your research is centered on the residents of Detroit.
That's right.
So they guide us in terms of the questioning, in terms of what are the concerns, and then we use the research to either substantiate or basically dismantle any myths that may be promoted. One of the things that people were saying is that Detroiters were gouging the region, where our research showed that actually what is happening is Detroiters pay retail for water.
That's right.
And that we are forced and legislated by the state of Michigan to sell water wholesale to our regional customers.
That's right.
And then they're marking water up anywhere from 100 to 1,000% and using this very racist narrative.
In the local municipalities and
Yes, ma'am.
villages and townships. So it's not the city of Detroit
No.
charging them, it's their own little towns
That's right.
adding a surcharge on.
Yes, ma'am.
So the people don't know.
No, ma'am. They have no idea. But it's been one of our charges, one of the things that Professor Gwen Winston, who is another mentor of ours,
Yes.
said to us. You can't keep talking to the people that make you comfortable. You've got to speak with people that make you very uncomfortable.
Come on now.
And so by sending us to places like Howell, Michigan, and rural communities that had farms and
Yes.
places where my cell phone would stop working.
Yes.
It was in those conversations we were able to meet farmers and young people that had been educated at our universities,
Yes.
but were returning to manage their family farms. Met a young man by the name of Dennis. And Dennis invited me to a meeting with some farmers out in a rural community. And as we were talking, they thought I came to talk about Detroit, which I did. But because of your training, one of the things I knew was I needed to have enough research and information to know what their water issues were.
That's right.
And when I showed up in the room, one of the men whispered to the other man and said, "Who brought the black girl?" And Dennis told him that he had invited the black girl. And so I began to talk to them about their water issues, that many farmers are experiencing the burden of the uptick of the cost of the chemicals that clarify the water and the runoff from their farms.
Yes.
And so therefore, all of that is creating toxicity throughout the system. And so they're paying anywhere, the markup has been anywhere from 200 to 270% for those chemicals since 2008. Well, when I started with that conversation, he said, well, we're not here to talk about Detroit. And I said, well, sir, I'm here to talk about your water issue.
Go ahead.
And so when we began that conversation and I knew the stats and I could quote those stats to them, and I started with concern for them,
Yes.
it changed the whole trajectory of the
see?
conversation.
My.
And then it opened the door for me to say, and the man said, I can't afford that.
That's
and I
right.
said, yes, sir, because you have a water affordability issue.
That's right.
And it opened the door for us to have a deeper conversation about affordability. The same has been true about PFAS, these forever chemicals
Yes.
that right now science cannot get rid of. And so we have things in our water that are actual chemicals and plastics that are microscopic. They say every individual person has about a credit card level of plastic in their body
My Lord.
because it's in our water. It's contaminated. And so it's been through those relationship building. It's been through the courage. I know you talk to me often about being able to tap into the God in me.
Yes, yes.
Understanding that even if I feel weak, that He has made me strong.
That's right.
That it's in those moments when I feel uncertain, not good enough, not prepared. I get real shaky when they want me to speak on behalf of Detroit.
Oh, come on now.
But then when you told me in 2012, I'll never forget it, when I was angry about emergency management, felt like we had been violated on every level. And we were, Cecily McClellan, Deborah Taylor, and I were in your office, and you turned your chair around because you had your back turned to us at first. You turned your chair around and you said to us, flat-footed, you said, each of you better deputize yourself because no one is coming to save black women and children. You better decide today that you're going to take on this mantle. And that conversation, those words, people don't understand, a few words can ignite a fire.
My Lord.
That word of you telling me I better deputize myself, it changed everything in terms of how I started viewing the world. You began to invoke that I had power, I had agency.
That's right, yes.
To make a difference in my community. And then it took me back to my grandmother's words. She used to tell me, because I'd bring home cats and dogs and neighbors and people that were homeless. And she'd say, baby, she'd feed them and take care of them and then send them on their way. But she'd tell me, she said, you can't save the world, but you sure can work on your little corner.
Yes.
And if you work on your little corner and you challenge your neighbor to work on their corner,
that's right.
Guess what? We can save the world.
That's exactly right.
And so I just carry those teachings. I carry God with me everywhere I go. Not that I'm perfect, but I'm willing to be perfected. We get up every day at We the People of Detroit, charged with the commitment that we are going to ensure that in Detroit and all across the nation and the globe,
say it,
that water will be a human right in our lifetime.
That's right. That's right. We claim that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
We claim that.
In the name of Jesus.
In the name of Jesus, because water was already here.
Yes.
Before man check the source.
Yes.
Check the word.
Yes.
In the beginning.
In the beginning.
In the beginning.
Yes, ma'am.
The Spirit of the Lord hovered over the face of the waters. And then the Lord said, let there be light.
Yes.
And there was light, and God saw that it was good. And that was the first day. That was the first day. The significance of water is sacred.
Yes.
It's a human right.
Yes.
For people who have faith, you got to know that water is part of what we stand on. It's water that must be accessible, available to everybody in the world. There is no man that has the right to determine that a family must have their water shut off.
That's right.
Because of some bill.
That's right. That's right.
You should not charge it. My position is you shouldn't charge anything for water, because water was here in the beginning, like air.
But your leadership has actually debunked that it is actually cutting off water gains more revenue for the system. What your research and leadership has shown us is that when you make water affordable, people actually pay the bill, which means you garner more resources into the system.
That's exactly
so
right.
It's good for the utility, it's good for the infrastructure, but it's sure enough good for American families to keep water on.
It certainly is. And issue with water is that people who have trouble paying the water bill also have other troubles as well.
That's right.
So the whole needs of the whole family need to be addressed. We're going to talk about that right after this short break.
Have you ever wanted your own TV show? Have you dreamed of showcasing your talent for the world to see? Well, now you can. Have your own TV show. You can have your own 30-minute show. Not only will you be seen in the Detroit area, but you can be viewed worldwide. For more information, call 313-868-6612. Visit our studios and receive a free TV interview to promote your business, church, or organization by appointment only.
Is arthritis, rheumatism, inflammation holding you back? Even ladies' menstrual cycle pain? Order Hurt No More. It's all natural and it works fast. Go to 86pain.com.
You know, I played in the NFL back in the 60s. We could have used Hurt No More after every game. I could have used something to relieve my pain.
If you've got pain, I've got the answer. Hurt No More. Wherever the pain is, it'll grab it fast.
86 to Pain. Go to 86pain.com.
Attention, brothers and sisters, viewers and listeners. Now available, your Son of Man Speaks magazine digital subscription. Your digital subscription to the Son of Man Speaks magazine will also include our monthly e-newsletter, both delivered to your inbox. If you have any questions regarding the digital magazine subscription or digital newsletter, you may send an email to shabazprinting@thenewnationofislam.com. That's shabazprinting@thenewnationofislam.com. Or call 1-601-786-9788. That's 1-601-786-9788.
Wake up, Detroit. I'm Joanne Watson, and we're so blessed to have Monica Lewis Patrick in the house, our co-host, our sponsor, We the People of Detroit. Thank you so much for being a very special guest. And I want you to say a word about the significance of us remembering that there but for the grace of God could be us in trouble with water or housing or special needs or health care.
Yes, ma'am.
Our people are often vulnerable, but many of them don't know where to turn.
Yes,
they don't know where to go or who to go to. What can we remind people today in terms of the importance of working together, organizing? Because as an organizer par excellence, Monica, you have learned how to roll your sleeves up and change things, transform by working, by organizing, by not sitting still. You've been able to engineer some changes at the water department as a result.
Well, we really see this as an opportunity for Detroiters on a couple of fronts. One, we know that there are many Detroiters that are experiencing the burden of water to the degree that they're paying anywhere from 10 to 20% of their monthly income just to keep their access to water. Just that. We know that there are many in our community that are burdened with overtaxation. We have seen since 2009 over 100,000 homeowners in Detroit, because they were overassessed, overtaxed, have lost their homes. We know that in that period of time, there were many Detroiters, just in the year of 2014 alone, you had 15,000 homeowners lose their home, not because of property taxes. They paid their property taxes, but they were senior citizens on a fixed income and could not afford the ever-increasing cost of water. We know that in terms of energy costs, those costs have gone up. We know that Detroiters experience redlining. So we know that we pay one of the highest auto insurance rates in the nation. We know that we have shifted from home ownership to rentership, which we know many times that costs either doubles or triples.
That's right.
We know that Detroit had a legacy up until 1997. We had the highest home ownership per capita in the nation.
That's right.
So we had a history of owning our homes.
That's right.
When you begin to pull back the onion, what you begin to see is that there was intentionality in creating the burdens that Detroiters are experiencing. When you look at revenue sharing, what the state of Michigan actually guaranteed that it would provide to the residents of Detroit.
That's right.
In terms of state compensation for them participating in relief to others in terms of tax instruments, they actually reneged on that agreement.
Yeah, they did.
So much of the cash flow that we saw that was stunted during the bankruptcy wasn't because Detroiters didn't pay their fair share. Many of the corporate and state actors that had entered into agreements and contracts with Detroiters reneged on those contracts.
And the state of Michigan reneged.
Say
the
it.
state of Michigan owes the city of Detroit right now
That's right.
$731 million
That's right.
that it has not paid.
That's
that illegal, unconstitutional emergency manager told them they didn't have to pay. He was not elected to anything.
That's right.
Does not live here, does not pay taxes here.
That's right.
So he does not have the right to tell the state of Michigan that it does not have to pay the $731 million that it owes in unpaid revenue sharing money.
That's right.
Unpaid revenue sharing. When you look at the history of revenue sharing, I understand the power that Coleman Alexander Young, the great mayor, the
Say it.
Honorable Coleman
Say
Alexander
it.
Young, used. He used his power when he helped get President Jimmy Carter in the White House. He got 4 people from his administration appointed
That's right. That's right.
to key positions. One of those was Dr. Bernadine Denning. One of his appointees, she had been the director of the Human Rights Department in the city of Detroit and a deputy superintendent of Detroit Public Schools. She was appointed to be the director of the United States Revenue Sharing. Came straight out of Coleman Young's office.
Wow.
And here, there is nobody from Detroit in the current president's cabinet because nobody here knows how to use power.
That's right. That's right.
Mayor Young used all of his influence to help President Jimmy Carter get in the White House, and he knew how to handle that.
Yes, he did.
I help you get in there, you're going to help our city.
Yes.
So the significance of that power and influence and understanding is something we should not ever forget. Revenue sharing is not something that the federal government sends to the state of Michigan and the state gets to keep it. No. It should have been routed to the city of Detroit, the biggest city in the state of Michigan. And it was absolutely unreasonable and cruel for the state of Michigan not to provide the revenue sharing that was due to the city and then have the nerve to file bankruptcy.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And so it's reminding that we have to do, and that's the beauty of what you offered every day at that city council table, is that you would never let us leave that table without a historical recall of the genius and the brilliance and the excellence and the amazing creativity that Detroiters still hold in their hands. And so we try to amplify that. We try to recite that. We try to remind people that even with the little that you may have, there is so much that you have agency over. You have power in your voice, in your vote.
That's right.
You have the ability to organize your block. Some of the most exceptional leadership that I find in the city right now is those big mamas.
Hey!
That granddaddy that sits on the porch and watches all the activities and can report out
That's
as to
right.
who went in and out the house. Those are security systems.
That's right.
You know, that's not some old man on the corner.
That's right.
an elder that's providing security to the block.
We need to tap some of those big mamas and big daddies right
That's
now
right.
because the government is planning to tear down the freeway that tore down Black Bottom.
That's right.
And Paradise Valley. They tore down 350 black businesses. Well documented in the Honorable Irma Henderson's down through the years autobiography.
Yes, say the name.
And well documented in the Honorable Coleman A. Young's autobiography, Hard Stuff. They talk about the 350 black businesses that got bulldozed by the Eisenhower so-called urban renewal that was really Negro removal.
That's right.
So now the same freeway that knocked down those 350 black businesses, they're going to knock that freeway down to create more apartments and more avenues for other people to come in downtown Detroit. Their big mamas and big daddies know the stories of those businesses.
That's right.
They owe reparations, and they know they do. They owe reparations because Mother Henderson told me from her mouth to my ears that they promised to rebuild the businesses they tore down. She said they made that promise. No, they weren't trying to keep that promise.
No.
They were just waiting for folks to die off so they could do what they want to.
But thank God, council member, that even within your agency at the council table, you were able to do some significant historical markings of Africantown and of that business district that still rests today so that people will know at least there is some connective relationship
Come on now.
to what was there. And so we can't forget that too. And I think that is some of what is lacking, is that many times what we are seeing is people sort of promoting themselves as personalities as opposed to policy and problem solvers. And what we had with you is you were always every day looking for a way to push a policy that would make the lives of Detroiters better.
You have to work.
Yes, ma'am.
You have to work.
Yes,
As you
ma'am.
know, and I don't have to tell you, we worked through recess. When everybody else was off, we were at work.
Deborah Taylor was telling the story to our leadership team the other day about how you called us in to tell us you wishing us well for the holidays. And then you told the two of us to stay because we had work to do over the holidays. But it was such a wonderful opportunity for us to grow in our leadership, because what we recognized is that holidays are man-made things to acknowledge our spiritual practices. But the work and the service that we do for each other, for humanity, is
That's
really
right.
God's work.
That's right.
And so I just thank you for pushing us, challenging us. We complained, but God knows we learned so much through that leadership and through that opportunity.
Well, I had good role models, and I cannot take credit for being a workaholic. Because one Congressman, John Connors, used to call me on Thanksgiving morning. Watson, let's go pass out food at my church at 5 a.m.
Whoa.
And we gonna feed the people. I said, sir, I'm wrestling with a turkey right now. He said, well, just be with me a little while, Watson, and you can get back to that turkey.
Oh, I missed the congressman. We missed the congressman. But the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I remember you calling me on a Christmas morning a few years back as I was preparing to wake up my children, and told me that you needed me to get over to Bishop Brown's church.
Oh, mercy.
Because work that you had really pushed for about a year and a half with that bishop to get taxes restored. His church was paying taxes that they should not have had to pay. And there was a check that was cut by the county because of your pushing, that they were anxious to get to the bishop on this Christmas morning.
Praise God.
And I remember you saying, baby,
you took that check.
I need you to get over to the church. And I said, this morning? And you said, yes, honey, and hurry up. They gonna send somebody from the treasurer's office and meet you with a check. And I just remember that church broke out in such a
hallelujah
moment.
Hallelujah.
And the praise went through that church, because those members, 12 of them, had put their houses up. It would have cleaned out a whole neighborhood.
That's right.
If those persons had lost their homes.
Praise God.
So it wasn't just saving that church.
The best work,
it saved that neighborhood.
The best work we did to help save people never made the headline.
That's right.
Never made
That's right.
any of the news programs, but we know that we saved lives.
Oh, you would get up from the table and go right down to the assessor's office, tell us, get in the car, we going to the water department. I mean, that kind of work.
They tried to close down Bert Deering's place more times than I have fingers on my hand.
I remember.
I would have to leave the council table.
Oh, yeah. Well, you beat the table first.
Oh, no, that's true. That's true. That's true.
But no. It has been that doggish leadership.
A fifth-generation black businessman, what?
That's
You
right.
still messing with him? Fifth generation?
That's right.
That's why we work.
Yes, ma'am.
That's why we work.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's why we are so proud of we the people of Detroit, with organizers and workers and visionaries and activists like Monica Lewis Patrick.
To God be the glory.
President,
To God be the
CEO, co-founder, we the people of Detroit. We're so honored to have you with us as a co-host, as our sponsor, and as our leader for such a time as this. You bless us with your presence, with your power, and on our way to talking to the White House next week. My. Thank you so much for being a very special sponsor and leader here on Wake Up Detroit. Monica Lewis Patrick, any final words you want to say?
Just would encourage the family, if you get a chance, go to the website of We the People of Detroit. We have something there called the Water Affordability Pledge. We would love for every Detroiter to sign on to that pledge. We're going to need to mobilize and activate our community. We have a great opportunity right now politically, not only locally, but at the state level and national level, to really change and codify by law that every person has a right to clean, safe, and affordable water.
My. Monica Lewis Patrick, we the people of Detroit. Wake up, Detroit.